This is the newsroom live from the charity hospital compound, where the initial 10 bodies that have been recovered from the MV Barima tragedy have been brought. As you can see, scores of desperate relatives are here to have a look at the faces of those bodies that were brought in, to see if it is their relative or not. This has been a very heartbreaking experience for them, and they are really desperate for answers. The government confirmed in a statement just a few minutes ago that 10 bodies have so far been recovered. These are the scenes at the charity hospital, where those bodies which were recovered have been brought. Relatives are being very patient. The hospital staff have asked them for their cooperation so that there isn't a rush and pandemonium here. So in the last few minutes since the bodies arrived here, the relatives have been cooperating, patient, but no doubt very anxious to have a look at those bodies. They have been told by the hospital staff that they would be allowed to do so in an orderly and respectful way, and they have so far been cooperating. But like I said, I mean, there are heartbreaking stories here of people losing their mothers, their children, and desperate to see if any of the bodies belong to their missing loved ones. As we have been reporting, a total of 67 people have been rescued after the MV Barima capsized off the coast of Guyana, some 7 miles out from the Pomeroon area on Saturday night. And since then, there's been a desperate search for the others from since yesterday midday. There hasn't been anyone who has so far been rescued. At this very moment, the relatives are being allowed to identify the bodies that were brought here. They are being encouraged to form an orderly line in order to do so. And so that's what's happening here at the moment.
You can put that system in place. It's back up.
So it turns out that right now that process hasn't started for the relatives to have a look at those bodies. the police officers here said that they will establish some sort of order for them to do so. Inside the parlor, the bodies are being prepared so that the relatives could have a look. It's not just the relatives here, the entire hospital staff, it appears, also anxious to know who are represented by the bodies that have been brought in here. At the moment, the medical staff at the hospital are preparing those bodies and the process by which relatives will be able to identify the bodies. It may be a little bit more before that can happen. As you can imagine, it has been many hours since these people have been missing. Their relatives trying to get some answers. We can be sure that not all of them will today get those answers. Just 10 bodies have been recovered. As we have been reporting, 116 people were on an official passenger list. A police officer is now asking for relatives of Dwayne Ford to step forward. Perhaps they have the identification of that person. But no one has stepped forward here. As I was saying, it is very unlikely that everyone here will be able to get the answer that they're looking for. There are just 10 bodies here. There were 116 persons on an official passenger list. Of them, only 35 survived this tragedy. The others are missing. 32 of the people who were rescued were not on the official passenger list, and the authorities have said they are not sure at this point in time exactly how many people were aboard that vessel. The passenger list had 116, but when they started to identify the persons who were rescued, they realized, well, 32 of them were not on that list, and it was in fact only 35 from that list that survived. So how the others got on board, and perhaps many more like them, how they got on board, is a question that remains to be answered. The authorities have launched an in-depth probe to try to determine everything that went wrong with this particular journey. You may know that the entire staff that was responsible for the voyage of the MV Barima on Saturday have been sent on leave pending that investigation, because it is clear that many more persons got on the vessel without their names being registered. We were also told that the cargo was within the license limit for the vessel, but that also has been thrown out of the picture because we are not sure, the authorities are not sure if that was really the case, and that is what they are trying to determine. To compound this tragedy is the fact that we were told that the captain of the vessel, along with the first engineer, were essentially smoking weed on the vessel at the time of this tragedy. They tested positive for narcotics. They remain in custody, and we have no further word on what will be their fate. The Minister of Public Works describing the use of cannabis on the vessel as criminal. So we will see where that investigation will go. The Prime Minister described the fact that the captain was high as very shocking. So again, you're looking at relatives lined up to view 10 bodies that have been recovered from the MV Barima tragedy out on the coast 7 miles from the mouth of the Pomeroon River. As these relatives await an opportunity to be able to see those bodies, to see if it's any of their relatives who have been missing, a search and rescue operation continues at sea, because it is the intention of all involved to try and find everyone, recover everyone at this point, dead or alive, from that tragedy. There are various agencies that are involved in this operation, including local fishermen. They were among the first to get out at sea Saturday night into Sunday morning to rescue people. Early on, I was talking to some fishermen who were able to rescue 11 people. They found them floating on a life raft and brought them to shore. They wanted to rescue much more because there were 3 vessels, but the state of the persons that they rescued, they said that 3 had blacked out, and so they wanted to rush them back to shore to make sure that they got medical attention so that they would be able to survive. And thankfully all of them did. Those fishermen, early on we met them, they went out back at sea to try to see if they could locate this vessel, because that is something that has not happened as yet. So where exactly in the ocean is that vessel remains a mystery at this time, but there is a search for the vessel, as there is the search for any survivors, any bodies that could be recovered from this tragedy. So we've been here the last few minutes at the charity hospital, awaiting the identification of 10 bodies that were recovered so far in this tragedy. Up to this morning, we only knew that 2 bodies were recovered, but now 8 more were added to that list. Inside the hospital mortuary, the health officials and security officials are preparing the bodies. They have told the relatives that they would be able to have a look at those bodies to see if they can identify any of their relatives, and that is what is happening at the moment. The relatives are awaiting that moment when they will be able to go into the mortuary to be able to have a look at the bodies. The government of Ghana has officially put out a statement declaring that they have found 10 bodies, and those gathered here at the charity hospital are waiting to see if any of those who were brought here just a few minutes ago are their relatives. They have been extremely patient and cooperative, the relatives here. This is a desperate wait for them, and so you could just, well, I don't know if you could really imagine what they are going through. They are waiting here, these relatives, to identify any persons inside who may be their relatives. So relatives are now being told to form a line so that they can go in and inspect the bodies and see if they can identify anyone. So that process is about to begin. So here, the first set of relatives are entering the mortuary at the charity hospital to have a look at the 10 bodies brought here to see if it belongs to any of their relatives. As you can see, hospital staff are inside. First relatives coming out, unable to positively identify any of their relatives. The young lady standing here, she lost her very young daughter. She and her baby survived. She hung on to a roll of vinyle and drifted all night until she was rescued. She had her young daughter, I believe 3 years old, she told me. She was holding her, but as the others were trying desperately to reach for something else, someone snatched her daughter away from her. It's been one of the most heartbreaking stories I've heard since covering this tragedy. She survived with her son, but she's desperate for any news about her daughter. That person, her son, her daughter rather, not there. It seems that she was able to identify some of the people in there, some of the bodies.
You recognize anybody? You recognize anybody there? Diana, you recognize anybody? You recognize
Many more relatives coming out, unable to identify any of their relatives. This is the charity hospital where relatives of those missing from the MV Barima tragedy have had an opportunity to have a look at the bodies to see if they could identify their relatives. As expected, many here have been unable to do so. Auntie, tell me who you recognize.
Shavana Ramsendo. Shavana La Cruz Ramsendo.
Who was she to you?
She is my niece-in-law. And the parents are coming because she went on the boat.
These are the people from Whitewater?
Yes, Whitewater. Walna. Yeah, White Creek.
And so they left you to identify the one?
Yes, the parents, the mother and the uncle coming down. So they're coming, right? You're welcome.
This is the only person who has been able to identify someone. One of her relatives, the village of Whitewater, has 10 people missing, and so the relatives are coming out one by one to see if they identify anyone.
Kelly? Kelly what? Kelly what? Kelly Williams?
This is a very long line for people to be able to identify their relatives. Have you been able to identify anyone? Who's missing for you?
2 cousins. Just there big people know the church. Oh, the dead, me know where people know the dead. People know anything about the dead in the casket.
Health officials are on the ground and gathering information from any relatives who say they've been identified. You can tell me who you were able to identify today?
My little niece,
Can you tell me her name?
Kelly.
Anything else you can tell me about her? Of course, many people deeply distressed by what has happened. This is an extremely difficult event taking place. 10 bodies, including a young child, including the girl's niece that we just spoke with, are inside the mortuary. We have been told 10 bodies have been recovered as they try desperately to find anyone who may have survived or any bodies. More relatives exiting the mortuary, unable to identify anyone. That seems to be all. This girl is making her way back in. She's been given an opportunity to see her niece once again. She identified her as Kelly. So this is the newsroom. We have been reporting live from the charity hospital where the initial set of bodies recovered from the MV Barima tragedy have been brought. Scores of relatives were here to have a look to see if they could identify any of their relatives. So far what we know from the health officials here is that just one person has been positively identified. We interviewed a relative of that person a little bit early on. The girl who you moments ago saw at the door, she said she had lost her niece but afterwards she wasn't too sure, so she went back in to try to make sure that that was indeed her niece. These bodies may have been in the ocean for a while. One woman, the woman who identified her relative, saying that the body was in a really bad state, so you could understand, I suppose, a bit of the difficulty with identifying that body. So she went back inside. We're going to wait to see if she comes out back. Like I was saying, the government has issued an official statement saying that 10 bodies have been recovered from the tragedy, and there will be an orderly process by which relatives can identify any of their relatives who have been missing since the MV Barima capsized on Saturday night, sometime Saturday night. So we will continue to bring you updates as we get them. But for now, this has been the newsroom reporting from the charity hospital.